Good morning, my loves. Welcome back. So this week we are going to talk about the house polarities in astrology. And when I say house polarities, what I mean is the polarity between the opposing houses. First house, seventh house, second house, eighth house, third house, ninth house, fourth house, 10th house, fifth house, 11th house, and sixth house, 12th house. And what they have in common, how they work together synergistically, and how we cannot look at them in isolation, truly, right? We can talk about them in isolation, right? We can talk about them, but we need to understand that they affect each other and that there's a synergy between them. And if we understand that synergy of those meanings, the house meanings, and then if we can apply them to our lives, we can enrich our lives and we can gain a greater understanding of the energies present in our own lives. So let's start with the first house today. The first house and the seventh house polarity. So this axis, the first house, seventh house axis, is called the relationship axis. It talks about the relationship you have with yourself, first house, the relationship that you have with others, one-on-one relationships, right? The relationship that you have with the other in the seventh house. Now, let's just look at the first house. So the first house tells us about you coming into physical form, right? It also tells us how you approach life, right? How do you approach life on a regular basis, on a day-to-day basis? Generally, how you approach life. It also tells us how others see you from the other side, right? How do they see you from there? And what it also tells us is the identity that you build throughout life. And that's an identity that is partially part of a very instinctual urge, right? First house, Aries energy, instinct, but also because it involves the other, right? Even though it is you, but it involves the others, their view of you, and how their view of you then shapes you. It is also partially conditioned, right? It is a very conditioned area. That's why it's often called the house of identity. And when you think of identity and you think of your identity card that is given to you from your country, your passport isn't you. It's not you. It is a document that talks about your eye color, your name, your height. But it is literally given to you. You didn't make it, it is given to you. That's where also the conditioned part comes in. We can go really deep if we want to. We could go into how does being raised in a certain country form your identity. If you would have been raised in a different country, how different would your identity be? We can learn and understand that when we look at the first house. Now, the seventh house is telling us about how you interact with the people. It's not so much how they see you when they first meet you, but it is actually how they see you and how they learn to see you when they interact with you. It's a very interactive part of our life. It is not just a superficial first glance that we get in the first house. In the seventh house, we become interactive with others. And let's just, for the fun of it, use an example here. So we have Virgo in the first house. A Virgo persona in the first house. How does this person approach life? Well, this person approaches life in a very logical kind of manner, in a very matter-of-fact kind of manner, but also in a manner of, there's a focus on detail. So what's the detail? So something is presented to you and you hone in on one detail. It's not that you can't see the whole picture, but it's almost like you're not really interested. You hone in on this one thing. What's not right here, or what is right here, right? What is a detail here? That's the Virgo persona, when they first look at something, they hone in on something. And the Virgo persona also, the way they're seen from the outside, they are seen as very analytical when they're first met by someone. So if someone meets you, or like even if you have an acquaintance that doesn't know you on a very deep level, the way they would look at you if you are a Virgo rising is like they see your analytical capacities. They are probably impressed by it. They also see that you can be a little stuck up, right? You're a little also like you have a very discriminatory view and approach that can be very helpful, but it can also be a little off-putting because it is not balanced. It is like, okay, this is right and this is wrong. There is no, well, maybe there's some right here and maybe there's some wrong here too. It's not a Libra approach, it's a Virgo approach. And the Virgo is like, no, we put this in the good part, we put this in the bad part. For example, a Scorpio rising will never understand. How can you approach life from that perspective? Because a Scorpio there's like much more emotion involved in anything we approach. There's no emotion involved in the approach of a Virgo rising. Yes, of course, you could possibly be a Scorpio sun and a Scorpio moon, and then you would still filter those emotional ways through the analytical approach. The approach would still be filtered through your Virgo facade, so to speak. Now, when we look at the other side and we look at Pisces in the 7th house, that person will get to know your caring and compassionate side on a deep, 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 deep level. And you will also attract and be attracted to that type of person. Doesn't mean you can't attract other people into your life, right? You can, it doesn't mean that you couldn't have a relationship with someone that does not have Pisces in their life or a lot of Pisces in their chart. But the difference here is your ideal partner will be a partner that has Piscean energy, strong Piscean energy. A lot of people will say, oh no, you can make it work with everyone. Of course you can. You can make it work with everyone. Does it mean that it is the most delicious, most yummy relationship that you could have? No, because for that, you will need that energy. You will need that 7th house energy, because that 7th house energy will complement that 1st house energy that you hold and that you will never get rid of. Your ascendant is your ascendant for life, right? So that polarity being brought in from the outside is really, really important. So you could be a Pisces. You could be an Virgo rising with a Pisces sun, for example, and other planets in Pisces. You still in your partnership would need that Pisces energy to make it round, to make it really feel juicy and yummy and delicious. So it is always going to be beneficial to have a partner that brings that energy in. From the plain perspective of having a juicy, delicious relationship, it is important that that partner of yours can hold your 7th house energy. It needs to be able to hold it and understand it. Now, when I just give you an example of my own life, earlier in my life, I've attracted people with that, my 7th house energy into my life, like very strongly. Now looking back, I wasn't aware of that at that time, but now looking back thinking, oh my God, I attracted them in. But because I personally was not really connected to that energy in myself, I couldn't hold them. And they couldn't hold me, so we couldn't do the dance, right? We didn't dance with each other. It was more like because we are both not rooted in this energy. So I of course also attracted those people that were not rooted in that energy, because I wasn't rooted. Once I was rooted, once I understood things, once I was ready, I attracted that partner in that actually was more rooted in this energy himself. You need to understand those energetics within you, right? Your relationship axis is a really, really important axis to understand for you energetically, right? What it means, what the energy you hold in your first house, the energy you hold in your seventh house, how they play with each other. You need to be rooted in both to be able to hold that energy enough that you can call in that partner, allow in that partner, really, right? Not just calling him in, because calling in is easy, but then allowing him in, you know, in a meaningful way where you have space for him and he has space for you, or she, right? Depending on, you know, what you want to attract into your life. That is key. Just to go back to where we started, we started with the first house being your approach to life and the way people see you, and then your seventh house is being your relationship with people. Like that energy in the seventh house tells you what your relationship is like with the people in your life, and what type of relationship you need on that one-on-one basis. What do you need, and what is also for you on the giving end? Like, what do you give? What is it like? What is truly you? What is truly you in a relationship? How are you truly yourself in a relationship? Right? Your seventh house will tell us a lot about that. If you have Pisces there, that romance is a big factor in your life. You cannot deny romance. If you don't have romance in a relationship, if your partner is a partner that, you know, says, oh, that's bullshit, we don't need that, and you will not be completely fulfilled in that relationship, because you are romance, right? You are romance, so you can't be yourself in that relationship fully. Doesn't mean there can't be other things that could be working really, really well for you, but you can't be fully blossom and bloom. So it is really, really important that we keep that in mind, that the seventh house is telling us so much about us and about us in relationship, and the way we receive in relationship, and the way we give in relationship, and the way we need to be given to as well, right? Someone with Gemini in the seventh house gives and receives very differently in relationship than someone with Pisces in the seventh house. So understanding that polarity, dancing with it, playing with it, and allowing yourself and allowing the other that is right for you to enter your life is key. So we leave it here for now. If you have any questions about this polarity, about relationship astrology, leave me a comment below, and I will talk to you in the next video.